wasn't just left off Team USA's radar. She made sure the world knew how she felt about it. Instead of using the setback as motivation, Wilson chose to attack Caitlin Clark's rise with petty social media jabs and a reactionary "I have a shoe to" campaign that fell flat. What could have been a private disappointment quickly turned into a public meltdown, exposing how threatened Wilson feels by Clark's growing influence. Her attempts to draw comparisons only underscore the gap, not in skill, but in relevance, impact, and maturity. As the sport evolves, Wilson seems to be stuck proving points no one asked her to make.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Wilson's bitterness isn't just personal. It's costing her professionally. While Clark quietly secures global endorsements and leads the next wave of stars at the Team USA camp, Wilson's antics are burning bridges with fans and decision-makers. The sport is moving forward, and Wilson's refusal to evolve with it is becoming her most glaring weakness. Public jealousy has replaced leadership, and the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark is headed to Team USA. Aya Wilson isn't. And the reaction? Nothing short of a meltdown. The December training camp for Team USA is one of the most critical pathways to the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics. It's where the top players in the country get evaluated for the biggest stage in basketball. And when that roster dropped, Clark's name was there. IAS wasn't. And the fallout? Immediate. Clark's invitation wasn't just a nod to talent. It was a confirmation of something the basketball world already knew. She's not just a great player, she's the future of the sport. Her dominance in college, her transition into pros, the endorsements, the sold-out arenas, the cross-sport influence. It all adds up to one thing. She moves the needle, globally. Meanwhile, Aya Wilson, the Las Vegas Aces star, took the news like someone who's been watching the spotlight shift and can't figure out how to stop it. Because this isn't about skill anymore. It's about trajectory. And Clark's is skyrocketing. Wilson's response to Clark's inclusion didn't come in the form of grace or professional congratulations. It came through passive-aggressive social media posts, half-baked shoe campaigns, and not-so-subtle attempts to frame Clark's success as unearned. The "I have a shoe to" campaign? Tone-deaf at best. Desperate at worst. That's not what leaders do. And it's not just one post. It's a pattern. Has tried to shift the conversation away from Clark's cultural dominance by questioning her endorsements, downplaying her impact, and constantly reminding the world of her own accomplishments. But that kind of defensive energy doesn't uplift women's basketball. It drains it. Clark isn't out here picking fights. She's building something. She's connecting with fans, growing the sport, and doing it without drama. She's breaking records, landing massive deals with Nike, expanding into other industries, and maintaining a calm, team-first persona throughout. Wilson, on the other hand, is doing damage control, and it's not working. Her online behavior, especially the digs aimed at Clark's visibility, has only made her seem smaller, not in stature, but in mindset, insecure, competitive in all the wrong ways. There's a difference between being competitive on the court and being threatened off it. Aya Wilson is showing us what the latter looks like. While Clark rises with humility and consistency, Wilson is stuck trying to prove that her relevance hasn't peaked. But the game has evolved. It's no longer just about stats. It's about influence. It's about reach, narrative, and cultural power. Clark is all of it. And Wilson? She's reacting to it like someone watching a train leave the station, with no seat reserved. The irony is that no one's taking anything away from Wilson's skill. She's had an elite career. But the game doesn't pause for past achievements. And right now, Team USA is focused on the future. That future includes Clark, Paige Butters, Juju Watkins, and other young stars. It's a generational shift, and Wilson is not handling it well. Not being invited to camp wasn't a fluke. It was a reflection of how much has changed. Because Clark isn't just a player. She's a business, a movement, a full-blown brand. Her inclusion on Team USA wasn't just a basketball decision. It was a global marketing one. She brings eyeballs. She brings revenue. She brings energy. And she's only just getting started. Meanwhile, Wilson's reaction exposes exactly why she's being left behind. She didn't respond like a veteran leader. She responded like someone whose pride got bruised. And that's not the kind of energy Team USA is looking to carry into the Olympics. Her constant attempts to match Clark's commercial clout through shoe launches, earnings comparisons, and petty social commentary don't make her look equal. They make her look insecure. And for someone with her resume, that's a shame. Instead of focusing on the game, Wilson seems obsessed with the conversation. But the conversation is moving forward, with or without her. Clark's rise isn't about hype. It's about data, viewership, sales, cultural crossover, business partnerships. Every metric points in the same direction. This is the athlete of a new generation. And what makes her rise even more powerful? She's doing it with humility. No drama. No ego. Just performance, leadership, and authenticity. Had the opportunity to play the veteran role, to uplift a rising star and show leadership through grace. Instead, she's doubled down on petty competitiveness and vague shots fired online. That's not just bad optics. That's career-limiting behavior. Brands don't want drama. Teams don't want distraction. Fans don't want bitterness. And right now, Wilson is serving all three. Her absence from the national team camp isn't just a snub. It's a statement, a very public one. And it tells you everything you need to know about where the sport is headed. Golf. Caitlin Clark is being groomed as the global ambassador of women's basketball. And she's delivering. Her crossover into business and even golf shows that her appeal isn't limited to the court. She's a media asset, a financial catalyst, a public figure who transcends the game. And in contrast, Aya Wilson is slowly writing herself out of the story. Not because she isn't talented, but because she's allowing envy to be louder than her game. In elite sports, legacy isn't just built on stats. It's built on how you carry yourself when the spotlight shifts. Wilson's reaction is a case study in how not to respond. She's not just missing out on a national team invite. She's missing the bigger picture. The sport is moving forward, fast. It's leaning into athletes who can grow the game, not just dominate it, who can represent it with professionalism, not pettiness, who understand that being marketable is part of the job now. Clark checks every box, and that's why she's in the camp and Wilson isn't. So let us know what you think. Did Team USA make the right call? Is Aya Wilson sabotaging her own career with these antics? Is Caitlin Clark already the face of the sport? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're watching this new era unfold in real time. Share it with someone who still thinks social media tantrums are a strategy. And hit subscribe. We're tracking every twist as women's basketball enters its most defining era yet. Because whether you're rooting for the vets or the rising stars, one thing is clear. Caitlin Clark is where the game is going. And Aya Wilson? She's a warning sign of what happens when you can't keep up. Aya Wilson is learning, loudly, publicly, and painfully, that the game doesn't wait for anyone, not even a two-time MVP. Because while Caitlin Clark was suiting up for her first ever Team USA training camp, Wilson was online, reposting veiled jabs, launching awkward shoe campaigns, and making it clear to anyone paying attention. She didn't take the news well. And why would she? To her, this wasn't just an invite list. It was a scoreboard, and she wasn't on it. Let's be clear. Team USA's December training camp isn't just another camp. It's the gateway to the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics. It's where USA basketball brings in the most marketable, influential, and talented players to see who's ready to carry the red, white, and blue on the biggest stage. Caitlin Clark was invited. Aya Wilson was not. That wasn't oversight. That was intentional. Because this is about more than basketball now. It's about impact. And Clark has it. All of it. She brings record-breaking viewership, packed arenas, unmatched engagement. Every time she steps on a court, it becomes a media event. Her presence affects ticket sales, jersey numbers, network ratings, and global buzz. She's not just a player. She's a movement. And that's why Team USA wanted her. Meanwhile, Aya Wilson, who's undeniably talented and still dominant in the WNBA, is watching the sport evolve without her. And her response? Not just disappointment. Not silence, but sabotage. Instead of using the moment to reflect or show leadership, she turned it into a messy campaign of comparison and bitterness. She tried to reframe Clark's success as marketing fluff. She pushed a "we earn the same now" narrative to downplay Clark's financial wins. She centered the conversation back on herself, and it didn't work. Because the problem isn't that Io Wilson has a shoe deal. It's that she keeps reminding people she does. Only ever when Clark gets something new. The issue isn't that she wants respect. It's that she demands it at the exact moment someone else is being celebrated. That's not confidence. That's insecurity. You don't build legacy by resenting someone else's rise. You build it by evolving, adapting, expanding your game and your mindset. But Wilson's stuck. She's fighting a battle that's already been lost, clinging to an old playbook in a league that's being rewritten right in front of her. And let's talk about that playbook. For years, Wilson represented the traditional WNBA mold. Incredible player, championship caliber, no doubt, but her influence outside the court? Limited. Her crossover appeal? Minimal. Her commercial success? Respectable, but nowhere near what Clark is pulling in. Without even hitting her prime. Golf. Clark's Nike deal isn't just a contract. It's a statement. Her business partnerships? Selling out in minutes. Her social media reach? Surging daily. She's made appearances in golf, business media, and cross-sport events. And each time, she's brought more eyes to women's sports. That's why USA Basketball didn't hesitate. That's why sponsors are lining up. That's why her inclusion wasn't a risk. It was the smartest move they could make. Because Clark doesn't just show up. She brings the world with her. And what's wild is that Wilson could have played this moment so differently. She could have supported Clark publicly, showing the world what veteran leadership looks like. She could have celebrated the sport's growth, even if she wasn't the face of it this time. She could have positioned herself as a mentor, a foundational part of Team USA's past, proud to see the future unfold. Instead, she made it about competition, and not the good kind. It's not about stats anymore. It's about who can lead the next generation, who can reach new fans, who can represent the sport to audiences who never cared before. And Wilson, whether she likes it or not, isn't that person right now. Clark is. And let's be honest, jealousy doesn't sell. Not to fans, not to brands, not to Team USA. No one wants a locker room distraction at the Olympics. No one wants to explain away viral tweets during training camp. No one wants to carry resentment across international borders. That's why Wilson's name wasn't called. Not because she can't play, but because she can't stop reacting. She's made it clear that she sees Clark's success as a threat, and that mindset doesn't translate to global leadership. It translates to drama, to tension, to missed opportunities. Because here's the truth that Wilson doesn't seem to grasp. Clark didn't take anything from her. She earned it. She earned it through performance, yes, but also through composure, through focus, through staying above the noise while everyone else tried to drag her into it. She didn't respond to Wilson's digs. She didn't clap back at the passive-aggressive shade. She just kept working, kept showing up, kept elevating the sport while Wilson stayed stuck in her own head. And the consequences are clear. Clark is rising, with endorsements, team invites, and cultural visibility. Wilson is plateauing, stuck in a cycle of defensiveness and diminishing returns. And it shows. Wilson's absence in the training camp isn't just a personal loss. It's a reflection of where the sport is going. Team USA is investing in potential, in marketability, and in global reach. They're betting on players who can grow the game, not just compete in it. Clark fits that bill perfectly. Wilson, with her recent actions, has shown she doesn't. And it's not just about this one training camp. It's about what comes next. The 2026 World Cup. The 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. The future of the sport on the court and beyond. Clark is positioning herself to be the face of all of it. Wilson is being left behind, not because of a lack of talent, but because of a lack of growth. Because in 2025 and beyond, being great isn't enough. You have to connect. You have to represent. You have to be a leader in more than just points per game. And Clark? She's doing all of that while being 10 years younger and twice as marketable. So yes, Wilson's meltdown was public and it was loud, but it wasn't effective. It didn't win her the sympathy she thought it would. It didn't rally fans to her side. It just exposed how far behind she is in a sport that's no longer waiting for anyone to catch up. The game is changing. The future is here. And Aya Wilson? She's not part of it. Not because she couldn't be, but because she chose to let envy drive her narrative instead of evolution. And let's be honest, it didn't have to be like this. Aya Wilson didn't have to turn her disappointment into a public spectacle. She didn't have to make every one of Clark's accomplishments about her. She didn't have to position herself as a bitter veteran watching from the sidelines while the sport she once helped carry now chooses someone else to lead it forward. But that's exactly what she did. Because instead of recognizing Caitlin Clark's moment for what it is, a generational shift, a business decision, a cultural pivot, Wilson chose to personalize it. She turned it into a rivalry that doesn't exist. Not on Clark's end, anyway. Clark isn't thinking about Aya Wilson. She's thinking about how to handle training camp, how to carry the weight of being the face of women's basketball in the making, how to be the youngest name on a national team invite list and still walk in like she belongs there. Meanwhile, Wilson's fighting shadows online, pushing narratives that no one asked for, comparing deals, measuring impact by dollar signs and follower counts, but only when she's losing the race. The I Have a Shoe To campaign? It could have been a celebration of progress, but it wasn't. It was timed and framed in direct response to Clark's Nike deal. A shoe release that didn't feel like a moment of pride. It felt like a cry for relevance. And that's the problem. Wilson's entire response to being excluded from Team USA has been driven by ego and resentment, and it's not helping her case. In fact, it's making things worse. Because in a league fighting for mainstream attention, sponsorship dollars, and global growth, the last thing it needs is a veteran star who can't handle being eclipsed without lashing out. It's not about taking a loss. It's about how you respond to it. Had a chance to show maturity, to mentor the next generation, to position herself as a cornerstone of the league's legacy and a supporter of its future. But instead, she's alienated herself from a narrative entirely. And the contrast between her and Clark couldn't be clearer. Clark's not even in her second full season, and already has a resume stacked with high-stakes pressure and public scrutiny. She's had cameras in her face since college. She's had to navigate the weight of record-breaking expectations. And through it all, not one meltdown, not one pity campaign, not one public shot fired at her peers. She plays, she leads, she keeps it moving. That's what professionalism looks like. And it's what makes her so easy to root for. Not just because of her shooting range or basketball IQ, but because she carries herself like someone who knows she represents something bigger than herself. The fans feel that. Brands see it. Team USA saw it, too. They didn't invite her to camp just because she can score. They invited her because she brings a full package: athleticism, leadership, humility, and commercial reach. She's a rare kind of player who shifts a culture, not just a game. And for Team USA, that matters more than ever. The 2026 World Cup and 2028 Olympics aren't just about gold medals anymore. They're global stages, marketing megaphones, massive opportunities to showcase women's basketball to new audiences. And they need faces who can command that spotlight, players who elevate the entire operation. Clark does that effortlessly. Aya Wilson used to have a seat at that table, but she's been too focused on proving she still deserves it rather than showing why. And frankly, the more she fights for attention online, the more obvious it becomes. The sport has moved on, not from her talent, but from her attitude. This isn't a league built on grudges anymore. It's built on growth. And Wilson's inability to accept Clark's rise without turning it into a competition is the clearest sign that she's out of touch with where women's basketball is going. It's not just about who's best. It's about who can lead. Clark isn't just part of the next generation. She's driving it. And she's doing it by expanding the game's reach in every direction: viewership, merchandise, media, youth engagement, even international appeal. She's bringing new eyes to the sport. She's creating an ecosystem that goes beyond the WNBA, beyond Team USA. That's exactly what the sport needs right now. And Wilson? She's busy throwing jabs instead of adjusting. That's the difference. Clark's out here being a generational athlete. Wilson's being petty. And it's costing her everything that actually matters. Because you can't lead a global movement when your energy is stuck in comparison. You can't grow the game if you're constantly tearing down the people who are moving it forward. And you can't stay relevant by making every success that isn't yours feel like a threat. Wilson has talent. She always will. But that's not enough anymore. The league, the media, and Team USA are all making it clear. They're not just investing in athleticism. They're investing in character, in marketability, in leaders who understand that basketball is part sport, part brand, part global business. Clark checks every box. Wilson, lately, hasn't even been in the right conversation. And if she continues down this road, more passive-aggressive comments, more Me Too campaigns, more public self-comparisons, she's not just risking her spot on Team USA. She's risking her legacy. Because in 5 years, when fans look back on this era, they're not going to remember tweets. They're going to remember who showed up when the spotlight was shifting, who supported the sport, who built bridges, who stayed above the noise. Clark's already writing that story. Wilson had the chance to be part of it. She chose to compete against it instead. So here we are. Team USA is moving forward. Clark is stepping into the global stage. And Aya Wilson is stuck watching unfold, not as a victim, but as the architect of her own exclusion. Let us know what you think. Should Wilson have made the cut? Is Clark already proving she belongs on the international stage? And how do you feel about the growing tension between past stars and the new generation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video, if you've been watching this shift happen in real time. Share it with someone still clinging to the old narrative. And hit subscribe, because as the sport evolves, so do the... Caitlin Clark is the future, and the future doesn't wait.